we've been missing a voice. And we don't even know what that is.
Taj, it's amazing to get a chance to speak with you. For folks who are listening to this whole interview on Rudy Blair Entertainment Media, RudyBlairMedia.com, we have known each other for a very long time. We actually were having a conversation before we started this recording and just catching up and all the things that we've been doing, because we've known each other. I feel like we've known each other forever. I can't even tell you where we actually met. It's just one of those things where you kind of turn around and go, yeah, this guy's been around with me forever, you know? And you have grown and done so much amazing work, because you're speaking to me from L.A. How is L.A. and how are you dealing with everything, man, with COVID-19, you know, the discussion of racism, so many different things that are going on with Trump. We've lost our king as we speak, like so many things going on right now.
Yeah, it's most definitely challenging times. And, you know, funny enough, when COVID hit in March, I was actually just wrapping up a job for Usher and Black Eyed Peas, a video that actually happened to be in this past Sunday's video awards for Mamacita, and it was kind of surreal because we were literally in preparation to do Drake's Tootsie Slide, but that never happened due to the whole world shutting down. And it's surreal because I feel like, you know, like I'm a kid that grew up watching crazy movies like Outbreak and Contagion, and here it is, like now we are living that. So see, here it is where, you know, a place that's so prosperous and beautiful and sunny, and now I'm in LA where everyone is wearing masks and a lot of businesses are closed down, and, you know, productions are like, I feel like I'm in like these hazard suit wards instead of an actual production. So it's very, very daunting and haunting at the same time. But at the same time, this is our reality, and like always, we got to figure out how to shift when things move around. You know, I lived in New York City during 9/11. I was in Toronto during SARS. So, but as you know, this has been the worst pandemic since the Spanish flu. But I've been blessed that for a company that I just opened, 2 months ago, we are slammed. But, you know, now instead of me traveling abroad, some shoots have to be remote. So we're shooting something in Kenya and in India remotely, you know, and, you know, X is talking about a possible job that he should be shooting remotely in Brazil because they're not letting people travel in. So, like, the world is in a whole different place, but it's my job as an executive producer to figure out solutions to still tell our stories, because we are still living in a time where people still need an escape from their reality. It's the reason why I got into this business in the first place, is to tell stories, to entertain, to educate, to push social messages. And it's more than ever, content is needed to kind of soothe the reality of what we're living in right now.
You know, that reality also is the Toronto International Film Festival, looking completely different, partially virtual, some in person. A lot of people not being able to come in to Toronto for the films. Media is cut down. Films have been cut down. But one thing that has happened is you have a film that you are part of that's going to be part of the Toronto International Film Festival. Congratulations on that. What is the film, and what is your involvement with this?
So the film is Underplayed, and it was directed by visionary director Stacey Lee. And this project was brought to us almost 2 years ago by the creative director from this agency called Anomaly. His name is Neil. So shout out to my man, Neil. He came to me with a seed of an idea, like, look, Taj, we're working with Bud Light, and as you know, we've been longtime allies to movements, for gay rights, but we want to do something to support our women, especially in the world of EDM. And then he showed me this crazy article that outlines the fact that here it is, these lists of prominent DJs, and on this list there was literally a couple female DJs. And I mean literally next to nothing. And which is crazy, because we're like, wait a minute, there's a huge, huge discrepancy here and disparity here, even though there are a lot of female DJs in this, in this space doing a lot of incredible work. So we wanted to shed a light on that, So this film centers around our 5 hero DJs, everybody from Rezo to Alice in Wonderland, Nervo, Tyga Pot, and more, where we follow our hero women on this amazing journey, talking about their challenges of fighting for equality, and speaking about, the disparities that they face with gender and sexism and payment discrepancies, and the list goes on. And what I love about this film is, outside of learning a lot about EDM, and I'll be honest, even though Director X and I are the executive producers alongside Bud Light, but I went on, even though I come from a music background, but I'll be honest, even though I listen to rock and hip hop and R&B and stuff like that, but EDM has been one of those genres I didn't really know much about, but I always respected the genre. And, going on this journey, I learned so much about it. I learned so much of what these amazing women in this industry have done, and their contributions to not only EDM, to contributions to entertainment as a whole.
Why haven't women done it? Well, they have done it all along, but they've been invisible.
I never had seen a female DJ at the clubs, ever.
Nada. Hardly any women.
Okay, we're talking about the engineer behind Purple Rain. We're talking about, the genius behind creating, the opening score for Doctor Who. This was all led by women. And I felt like, man, especially for us being the brand that we've always been, which fights for inclusion and diversity, it was only fitting that here it is, we're going to fight to support this female director by the name of Stacey Lee to tell her story that was led by a female production team that's talking about this situation. And it was great, man, and I'm very proud of it, because like every movement, you have to have allies. And right now you see what's happening with Black Lives Matter, fighting for diversity, fighting for change. But the only way you can make change is by putting up and acting. So here we are. We made sure that we supported Stacey, we fought for Stacey, and we gave her a platform to tell the story to a group of women who tend to be overlooked and unheard and undervalued. But this film just focuses on them, their journey, and they educate us on what we need to do as an industry together to change the future and give a better pathway to female DJs coming into this business.
Is this kind of like a first, especially with EDM? Because for folks who don't, when people see anything when the EDM festival is going on, and Bud Light has been a huge sponsor of this for years, they really only see the spectacle of it, the sexiness of it, and hearing the beats of it. Is this going to be able to put a completely different light, so now you can see the heart and soul of EDM and these women and people involved with this genre, like any other genre where you've seen the pioneers and the people who work behind the rock, the R&B, the hip-hop, the country, and so on?
Yeah, exactly to that. Like, it's like you said, like a lot of people don't really understand the history of it, and the players, right? And that's the beautiful thing. Like, it's giving you a very close window view POV of this genre. And the fact that, like some of these DJs are mothers and trying to figure out how to balance being a DJ that's playing to a stadium at the same time still breastfeeding, right? It's an amazing journey that we embark on, learning about, the founding fathers of electronic, dance music, and to where it's gone and how it's evolved. Because as you know, like back in the days, you would have to go to like certain clubs in Chicago or Detroit where everything, that's where it starts from, right? But now to see how it's evolved, the fact that these DJs are like pretty much pulling out crowds that speak to concert, proportion is unbelievable, and right now it's like, but for us, it's important for us to say, hey, this has been a great journey for this genre that continues to evolve, but we also got to speak to the women who have contributed so much and who've been an integral part of the growth of this genre. Because a lot of times it's the men that get celebrated often, and it's, again, the women are not getting their share of play. So we wanted to make sure, like, we put them in the limelight, we put them in the forefront. And even though we do respect the male counterparts, because, they're great, but, that's why we have some male allies in the film. I don't want to be give a spoiler alert here, but there are some great allies that do come from the male side as well, for a lot of these DJs. But at the same time, we need to do more, and we need to support them more, and we need to make sure that they feel welcome and heard and seen.
I'm very curious in how you handled, or your company handled, the production side of things in getting footage, in being part of these massive crowds, knowing the fact that when I'm 200-300 yards away, I can't even talk to the person next to me because I know how loud it is. Just even dealing with the lights, the sequence, everything. How did you guys do this?
Well, let me take my hat off to our producer, William Krause. William Krause and Stacey, they worked together to do the magic. I was the executive producer, so I was in the watchtower while Stacey and William were in the trenches and actually in the war. But William was the point of the spear leading the way, even though we had a female-led production team. But it was a challenge because, one part shooting in Toronto, and then we're shooting abroad in Europe, and then we're shooting in New York, and we're shooting in, Red Rocks. Like, it was most definitely, it was a bi-city, multi-city, crazy task. And like, to your point, like, just dealing with the volumes of people, like, Stacey and William and team, these guys went out there, and it was a hard fight to get this coverage and just to sustain, because it's like, these events are late, and we're not young bucks anymore either, right? So, but they handled it well, and then our talent, like the Rezos of the world, they are great allies, and they were guiding them, and helping them and giving us backstage access and crowd access, and giving us the tools that we need to tell the story authentically, that truly speaks to the culture of what this film's about.
I'm looking forward to seeing this on the big screen. But in the meantime, though, congratulations on your company. Can you talk about exactly what your company is about, especially where you got the name from? Because I think this is amazing.
Yeah, so FELA, I was inspired by Fela Kuti. For those who don't know who Fela Kuti is, he is a musician, activist, and he was a renegade. He spoke out against police brutality, government corruption, and what really made me resonate with him at the time during all the unrest and protests was his philosophy of using art as a weapon, right? And for him, it was music. For me, it's storytelling, right? And using art as a weapon to help create disruption and change was something that really meant a lot to me. Because for me, I always felt like I was a renegade. I'm a Black executive in a white male dominated advertising business. So X and I tend to be the only Black men in the room when we go to the awards or the festivals and so on and so forth. So we felt compelled to create something that was more meaningful, that had more of a social message with the name. And even our slogan, own your culture, tell your stories. Because too many times we've seen where, brands like Pepsi do a spot where the cultural appropriation is intact because they didn't have representation that spoke to what they were trying to convey in those rooms, to be like, no, you shouldn't do that, right? Dove, same thing, right? There was an ad that came out where a Black woman takes off her shirt and she turns white. So pretty much saying she's dirty because she's Black. It's a really messed up thing. But if there was Black representation in these creative rooms, in these C-suites, then someone would have been, no, this is crazy, right? So for us, we wanted to create a brand, one, that is cultural, that speaks to the culture, because when I say own your culture, outside of the obvious reasons, right, to have control of your destination, But it's important to make sure that when you have the storytellers who are telling the stories and shooting them and capturing them, the individuals, the directors, the creators that we're working with, they have to have control of that. So if I'm working with a Stacey Lee, when she's telling a story about women, I want to make sure she's empowered, so she's making sure the woman's gaze and perspective is fully intact and told in a way that speaks to women and they can relate to it, versus me coming in there telling her what to do. That's not the way it's done. It's about taking ownership and control. It's no different than why Ava DuVernay did, Selma, and why Ryan Coogler was hired to do Black Panther, right? Once upon a time, yes, Spielberg, he directed Color Purple, and personally, I thought he did a phenomenal job. But there's also been situations where there's been directors who are not that actual color or that culture, who have told stories that misrepresented the culture. And our job is to make sure, doesn't matter, what the situation is, we got to make sure whoever's behind that camera, and if we're speaking to a story that's gender related, race related, custom related, we got to make sure that the director fully understands the culture that they're representing and the story they're telling, because we cannot do a disservice to the audience, especially now when it comes to the world we're living in. Because like I said, for me to have sons that are now born into an era where now they have Black superheroes or Black characters in movies and cartoons, it's a whole different, it's a whole different sense of self, because now they feel like they have relatability there and they feel a sense of confidence there, versus when I came up, everything was all white males and white women. So I felt displaced, but now I'm in a position now to tell stories that now pertain to Black and Indigenous and to women and to people of color. And that's what it's supposed to be about. We're Canada, right? And we're supposed to be a true representation of multiculturalism. But that has to now reflect not only in front of the screen, but it has to reflect behind the screen. And that's the reason why X and I started up FELA, because we have to fight for that type of representation, not only in front, but also behind the screen.
I agree with you. If folks want to really get an example, I'm not going to go with movies, but look at the early 70s television shows. When you look at a program like Sanford and Son, where not only did you have writers like Richard Pryor, but of course Red Fox was basically the man who controlled it and said what went on and what didn't go on, compared to shows like The Jeffersons and Good Times, where even if you had a certain actor, what's his name, James Amos, I hope I have his name right, tried to speak out, he was let go. So there you go. You have the differences of what the programs did look like and feel like. So you're absolutely right in what you're saying. I want people to know too that the star power behind your company. You've worked with some of the biggest artists, not just in the country but in the world. Who are some of the artists and celebrities you guys have worked with?
The first celebrities, of course, I'm gonna say my guy Drake off the top. Drake, Rihanna, Kendrick Lamar, Usher, Black Eyed Peas, Rosalia. We shot this amazing video called Conatura with her and J Balvin. So yeah, man. And then as far as brands, we worked with everybody from Samsung to Nike, because I feel like, those brands are big and they speak to, size and credibility and cachet as well. So for us, it's like I've always envisioned, look, we are two kids from Brampton, Ontario that grew up in the city I love so much called Toronto, but our goal was to make a brand and a company that creates work that speaks to an international audience. And we've been blessed to do that and continue to do that. And now we're, outside of just doing music videos, commercials, and branded content, now we're evolving into, documentaries like Underplayed, and then long and short form films, which in the next year or so, just keep a close ear, but FELA's going to start getting to that space as well. Because we feel like outside of anything, content is king/queen, and our goal is to tell stories in all mediums. So now we're going to continue evolving into just making great content and eventually even do podcasts. We're not there yet, but the goal is we want to create content that is global, but comes from a very, very true and authentic cultural place.
Do you pinch yourself sometimes? Do you maybe, because I'll speak for myself very quickly. I will never forget, of course, the third time when I was at the Grammy Awards, being backstage and watching the winners coming and being able to speak to them and interview them. And it was one of the rare times where I actually stopped for a moment and looked around and said, my God, look where I am right now. Do you pinch yourself at those moments sometimes with who you're working with, or what award event that you're at, or just even sitting there working on a project and turning around and realize so-and-so is right next to you? Do you pinch yourself and then think back to, if you could go back and tell that little 7 or 8 year old you that this would be happening, your little self would be going, nah, that's not going to happen.
It's so funny. I pinch myself every time I wake up. I grew up in a single parent home, and, my mother's Caribbean, she's Jamaican. Shout out to my mom, Marie. And she was very adamant about, like a lot of our parents did from our time, like, who are quote unquote old school. Like, if you're not a lawyer or a doctor or somebody with a trade, that you don't have a real job. So I can't even imagine what you probably went through. I went through to tell my mom, hey mom, yeah, even though I got this, this degree in criminology, but I'm going to go to New York City and be Director X's executive assistant in, 1999 after I graduate with honors. And she wanted me to go to law school. And I was literally studying my LSAT at the time. So, so to see how we've evolved, and I've been working with X since I was like 17, he was 16, and now like I'm 45 and he's 44. So it's been over like 20 years, whatever. And to continue driving and pushing and to still be relevant culture and to work with the up and coming, the new and the fresh. And now we're getting into the film space and television space. Like Karina just recently just shot a pilot episode for Star's new hit show, P-Valley, and I'm so prideful of that because, like I said, she started with us like 5-6 years ago as an intern at our former company, but now she's shooting, pilots, and she just shot an episode for Snowfall, and now she has 2 to 3 films in development right now. Like, this is a blessing, and I always thank God to have the ability to follow my dreams and to support my family and my friends and my talent with something that is true love and passion for me, which is creating and cultivating and fostering and developing and just telling stories. So yeah, it's trippy when I'm sitting down with the biggest stars, biggest brands in the world, but at the same time, I believe like this was my God-given gift, and I believe everyone serves a purpose, and my purpose is to work with the best, and that's why I strive to make sure that FELA, it can compete with the best and the brightest production companies in the world, because for me, it's not about just being good. It's about being the best. And I've been blessed that I've worked with the best.
What advice can you give those young folks who are hoping to stride into the type of atmosphere that you have been blessed to work, and you worked hard at it? Because a lot of times people see the house, the cars, the bright lights, big city as they like to call it, but they don't truly understand the sacrifice, the hard work, the failures before the achievements happen. What advice can you give them that hopefully they can achieve? And who knows, maybe one day they're sitting there and they turn around and you're sitting right next to them because you're both now working on a project.
Wow. My advice to anybody who's trying to get into this business, first and foremost, learn the business. Understand why you want to be in the business, because, understand the greatness, the blessing of interning is you get to feel out what works for you and what doesn't work. But you got to truly love it, because this is a very tough business, and I truly love it. I eat, breathe. I can't live without it. And to your point, this has been over 20 years in the making of getting to this point, and this is sacrifice of relationships, sacrifice of sleep, sacrifice sometimes of mental health, because, this is a high level stress business that comes with a lot of curveballs and a lot of failure and letdowns, but like anything, if it's Michael Jordan, if it's even any athletes, if you look at that new recent spot that came out for Kobe celebrating his anniversary of his birthday, talking about being better, if you truly believe in yourself and you feel you have a gift that you were given, you just got to go out there. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's the facts. Like we didn't stop at anything. At the time when X was coming up, he wasn't making the traction he was making in Toronto. So he picked up and went to New York City and interned for Hype Williams and literally worked from the bottom, being an office PA, sweeping floors, washing his car, watching his dogs, house sitting for him. And then he started being a storyboard artist. And then he started getting little jobs here and there to start shooting like little promo spots for Def Jam. And later on started doing music videos. And then he had a breakthrough for his first big video for Redman in his mid-20s. But like people don't see the grind, like him taking the Greyhound to New York City, him sitting in his aunt's attic and slaving like me. Like I started off as X's executive assistant. And that was very weird, be my best friend's, EA, because I have to learn the difference between friendship and business. When X is screaming on me because I'm not doing my job as an EA, not his best friend. So I had to really learn, through the school of hard knocks that if you truly believe in yourself, you got to apply yourself, you got to study. I'm 45. I still study. As an executive, I want to be the best executive. I study videos from everybody from Bob Iger to Steve Jobs, to Will Packard, Tyler Perry. I study them. I study Oprah. I study Ava DuVernay. I study Jordan Peele. I study Issa Rae. I study these executives and be like, all right, great. What are they doing? What can I do better? And how do I continue evolving? Because I truly believe if you are a student of life, that's a forever thing. And I'm a student, and even though I've been in the business for over 20 years, I'm still learning because the business is changing. Look what's happening right now, Rudy, where once upon a time, the gatekeepers were movie cinemas. Now the gatekeepers are streaming companies. So there's a whole new business practice that you have to understand. There's a whole new way of rolling out films that you have to understand with, VOD, and the list goes on. So you have to understand your business. You got to stick to your guns, and you just got to keep learning. You got to put the hours in. You know what I mean? You got to pay your dues. Everybody wants Instagram, Insta this, Insta that, but you got to put the dues in, man. What you put in is what you get out. I'm old school. You got to put the work in. And, like the film business is something that I'm now rolling into. That's after 20 years, but now I'm executive producing films. And this year, director RT, he did this amazing sci-fi show with Hulu called Utopia Falls. It's like this dystopian future that has a multicultural cast. And this is a guy who I met in the tape room at Much Music, and now he's creating shows. You know what I mean? So it's truly the philosophy of starting from the bottom, but working your way up to the top. But that's what it is. If you're resilient, if you believe in yourself, and if you're passionate about this industry, and it doesn't matter if you're a director or a producer or an actress or a camera lighting, grip, whatever you want in this business, you just got to stick to your guns and work your ass off and just pray that eventually a door will open and you have a mentor to kind of help guide you.
Amen to everything you just said. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on your success. And even happier, too, that a film you're involved with is going to be at the Toronto International Film Festival. Who would have thought? I love the scenario that you just put about, tapes at Much Music, because there'll be people sitting there going, what the hell is Much Music too now? So they don't even understand what that is all about. So,
and what are tapes?
What are tapes, exactly. Look, for folks who want to learn more about your company, social media is the place to go, or even if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, where do we go?
Go to www.FELA.tv, and that's FELA. So once again, www.FELA.tv. That's my website. There's the work, and you can learn more about us and our work and our art and our talent. But yeah, man, that's pretty much the place to find me.
Taj, I love you. Congratulations on everything. Look, say hello to the boss for me, please, because I only get to see him now maybe every 2 years when he is in Toronto. So, but man, I'm just so happy with all your success, and thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
And before you go, I want to thank you, Rudy. And like I said, a lot of times we don't thank each other enough. And I want to thank you for continuously being a voice and a platform for people like myself to have a platform to speak on. And like I mentioned to you before, like representation matters. You know, you are a Black journalist, and we work in a very tough industry. And the fact that here it is, we can have an opportunity to talk as brothers, to speak on our journey, to speak on our path. And here it is, like literally we've seen each other. Like you said, I don't remember when we met, but we continue to have conversations as we continue evolving in this business. You're always there at my next transition and cornerstone. So thank you again for being an ally to me and a brother to me, and for many others as well, for our business and giving us a platform to share our stories and to lend our voices as well. So thank you.
And thank you for that. Blessings. Stay safe. Say hello to your family for me. Like I said, say hello to the boss for me too. And hopefully the next time we talk, man, it will be in person, and it's big hugs to you, man.
All right, brother. Mad love and respect. Thank you so much for your time.
Always respect to you too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
I'm glad that I didn't listen. I'm glad I didn't give up.